Hello friends, welcome to our e-learning platform by the book Learning Made Easy, where we give an in-depth analysis and comprehensive explanation of all the topics related to UPSC, APSC as well as other PCS examinations. Today, I, Sominil Barua, will discuss with you the first topic of Indian history, which is the advent of the Europeans into India. So before beginning, let us understand the contents which we are going to discuss today. So, we are going to first discuss about the arrival of the first European to India, which is Vasco da Gama. Then we are going to discuss about the viceroys and generals of Portuguese, which are Francisco de Almeida, Alfonso de Albuquerque and Nuno da Cunha. Then we are going to study about how the Portuguese state was established in India and the religious policies of the Portuguese, how it varied from the mainland Indian people and how it conflicted with the Muslim religion of the Moors and the Arabs. So all these topics will be discussed in details today. So let's begin the discussion without any delay whatsoever. So now friends, let's discuss the background of India before the Portuguese had arrived. See, India that time was very rich country. It had very good trade relations with the Greeks since the ancient ages. The most ancient civilization of India was the Indus Valley civilization that during that period, as you might have known. And see, it was not only the most ancient but also very advanced. Only Mesopotamian civilization could match up to the levels of Indus Valley civilization. The Indus Valley seals were found in both Mesopotamia, which is modern day Iraq, as well as Egypt. See, during that time only, India was so rich that the news of its riches had reached far and wide all throughout the world. Okay. And India's wealth and riches were not in form of only currency or coins, but in form of ivory, which is found in the tooth of elephants. Then sugar, pepper, etc. had wide demand all over the world. This news spread like wildfire all throughout the world, and all the countries all over the world were interested in undergoing trading with India. Even one of the countries was Portugal. So the Portuguese saw India as an opportunity to enrich their economy so as to strengthen their power in the world. So India caught the eye of the Portuguese and they made a decision that they will come to India and start trading here. Okay, I hope you got my point. Friends, now we are going to discuss about the first European who came to India from Portugal. As I have already told you, the Portuguese were the first to arrive in India. And the first person among the Portuguese to come to India was Vasco da Gama. See, Vasco da Gama became the first European to reach India through the Atlantic Ocean by a point called the Cape of Good Hope, which is located in South Africa. When he came from Portugal, he landed at a place called Calicut, which is in modern day Kerala. Okay, from Calicut, he was taken to Cochin by the local Muslim merchants. See, that area was ruled by some Muslim ruler, and the name of that Muslim ruler was Zamorin. Okay, and if sometimes it may be asked in any exam that in which year did Vasco da Gama come to India? It is 1498. I hope you got my point. Okay, so the local ruler, what was his name? His name was Zamorin. See, when coming from Portugal, Vasco da Gama had brought with him a lot of gifts, a lot of prizes for Zamorin. However, those things were not able to impress the Zamorin, and hence Vasco da Gama was not able to get the requisite trading rights that he wanted for himself. As a result, in July 1499, Vasco da Gama had to go back to Portugal from India with a small cargo of spices. Spices in the sense we call jeera, then garam masala, everything. All these come under spices. I hope you got my point. See, this cargo, it sold for about 60 times the cost of his voyage. The voyage was from Lisbon to Calicut and back. Whatever was the cost of that voyage, the cargo sold for about 60 times more. Hence, Vasco da Gama earned around 60 times more profit through his entire voyage to India. I hope you got my point. Okay. But he was not satisfied with this. Vasco da Gama was not satisfied, as he could not garner the trading rights to India. So he decided that he will go on a route this time. This time he will be intruding India and invading India with the intention only to get trading rights to the entire land. Okay, he wanted to overthrow Zamorin and establish trading rights here. So he undertook a second voyage called the Second India Armada, and it was launched in 1500 AD under Pedro Alvarez Cabral. See, Vasco da Gama, he wanted to make the Zamorins submit to his whim. So when he came back, he landed at Calicut and he started bombarding the forts of Calicut and Cochin. A war broke out. However, he could not defeat the Zamorin, and Vasco da Gama failed in his mission and returned back to Portugal in 1503 AD. I hope you got my point. Okay? Friends, now we are going to discuss about the next Viceroy of India by the Portuguese, which is Francisco de Almeida. See, in 1505 AD, Francisco de Almeida was made the Viceroy of India by the Portuguese. I hope you got my point. So that he can not only carry out trade but also consolidate and strengthen the position of Portuguese in India. See, during that time, wars were not fought mostly on land. They were only fought through water. And the main threat to the Portuguese in the Indian Ocean were the Gujarat as well as Egyptian navies. In 1507 AD, Almeida's fleet of ships were destroyed by the combined action of the Gujarat as well as the Egyptian navies. And his son, Francisco de Almeida's son was killed in the battle. However, he recouped, and during the next year, he reformed his ships and he avenged the defeat the previous year by destroying both the navies, both the Gujarat as well as Egyptian navies. As a result of that, Portuguese became the sole master of the Indian Ocean, and there were no competitors for them. This policy of Francisco de Almeida, through which he made Portuguese the master of Indian Ocean, this policy was called as the Blue Water Policy. Keep this in mind. This is asked in many competitive exams many times. In fact, I have faced this question many times over. So I hope you keep this in mind. If someone asks who invented the Blue Water Policy, then your answer has to be Francisco de Almeida. Moving on, we are going to discuss about the next Governor General of Portuguese, who is Alfonso de Albuquerque. Later, after Francisco de Almeida, Alfonso de Albuquerque was made the governor of Portuguese possessions in India. I hope you got my point. Okay. What was his biggest achievement, do you know? In 1510, Albuquerque was able to acquire Goa from the Sultan of Bijapur. See, up till that time, Goa was a part of India. Okay? Goa was a part of India, and when Albuquerque occupied it from the Sultan of Bijapur, instantly it became a Portuguese territory. For the first time since ages, the last time it happened was in 326 BC, when Alexander invaded the region between the Chenab and the Jhelum rivers. After that, in 1510, when Albuquerque occupied Goa from the Sultan of Bijapur, it became the first territory to be taken by the foreigners. I hope you got my point. Okay? And a good aspect of his rule was that he emphasized upon local marriages, which means a marriage between a local boy as well as a Portuguese girl as well as Portuguese boy and local girls. Plus, he emphasized on the removal of sati system. What is this sati system? It was a cultural system, Hindu system of India, by which if the husband dies, the wife also kills herself along with the husband in his funeral pyre. So this system was very frowned upon, although it was still practiced. Alfonso de Albuquerque made a strict attempt to abolish this system. I hope you got my point. Now we are going to discuss about the next Governor General of Portuguese, who is Nuno da Cunha. See, after he assumed office, after he took charge as the next Governor General of Portuguese to India, he immediately shifted the capital of Portuguese from Cochin to Goa in 1529. The first capital of Portuguese was Cochin, and then it was shifted to Goa in 1529. At the time, the ruler of Gujarat was Bahadur Shah, and he had ceded an island called Bessin to the Portuguese in 1534 with an expectation. He submitted Bessin to the Portuguese with the sole expectation that they will help him in his battle against the Mughal Emperor Humayun. Okay. However, in 1536, Humayun himself withdrew from Gujarat, and as a result, the relation between Bahadur Shah and Nuno da Cunha, it became worst. Okay. One day, he was invited to a Portuguese ship in 1537, and he was killed there by Nuno da Cunha. What was Nuno da Cunha's achievement? He attempted to settle many Portuguese people in an island called Hugli in West Bengal, which is in India, a state of West Bengal. I hope you got my point. Okay, moving on. Okay, now we are going to discuss about the establishment of a Portuguese state in India. See, first thing you have to remember is that what was the name of the Portuguese state in India? It was called as Estado Português da India. Estado Português da India was the name of the Portuguese state established in India. So, see, the Portuguese came from nowhere and suddenly they usurped power in India. So, they need to have some certain favorable conditions for them that played in their favor. Okay. First thing was, northern India was divided into many small territories. Okay. Northern India was divided into many small territories. There were no unity among the rulers, individual rulers. As a result, they could easily overcome those small rulers. Plus, only important ruler during that time was Mahmud Begarha. Okay. He lived on from 1458 to 1511. Plus, no powers had a strong navy at that time. I already discussed with you the Egyptians, the Arabs, the Chinese and the Gujarats. All these are strong navies, but they were no match for the highly technologically advanced Portuguese. And they could not match up to the Portuguese power. Okay, as I have told you, the Portuguese also had warfare in their ships. They had used modern warfare such as cannons in their ships. All these made Portugal and the Portuguese ships very dominant in the sea or the ocean, and no one could defeat them. Hence, all things played out in their favor, and they were able to install a very good state in India. I hope you got my point. Plus, the Portuguese had extended their control from Bombay to Goa and Daman and Diu, means the entire west coast of India. The entire west coast of India were being taken over by the Portuguese. You have to remember the names of some important seaports in this area, that is Kannanur, Calicut, Cochin as well as Mangalore. They were the important seaports of this region. Okay. Further settlements were also established at Santhom and Nagapattinam. These were the areas which were later occupied by the Portuguese. Another important role which were played by the Portuguese was that they helped in maintaining a very significant role. Okay, they helped in maintaining a very significant role in the Deccan by balancing the power between Vijayanagar and the Bahmani kingdom. Okay, the Bahmani kingdom and the Vijayanagar kingdom were in constant conflict with each other. And what the Portuguese did was that they acted as a mediator between the Vijayanagar as well as Deccan sultans. I hope you got my point. And the last point emphasizes everything. The Portuguese were the first Europeans to arrive in India and the last to leave after Goa was recaptured by India in 1961. Like I told you, the Portuguese were the first to come to India in 1498 and the last to go in 1961. I hope you got my point. Okay. Now we are going to discuss about the religious policies of the Portuguese. See, the Moors and the Arabs were Muslims and the Portuguese were Christians. So obviously there was a religionistic rivalry between the Portuguese and the Moors and the Arabs. Okay, and all of them were bitter rivals of each other. Especially the Moors and the Arabs were ganging up against the Portuguese who were Christians. The Portuguese did not like the Muslims. They wanted to prosecute the Muslims and were also quite intolerant towards the Hindus. Means if they got a chance, they would have prosecuted Hindus too. Once Goa was occupied or acquired by the Portuguese, then what they did was they started prosecuting Hindus as well. They had the option of either converting or die or work as slave. These three options were available to either the Muslims or the Hindus in Goa. Okay. See, at the time the Mughal ruler was Akbar. Okay. So he had propounded a religion called Din-e-Ilahi, which incorporated all the good teachings of all the various religions which were present in the world during that time. He was also very interested in religious discussions. So what he did one day was that he summoned two Christian missionaries from Portugal to his court in 1579. Okay, the Portuguese thought that they could somehow manage an attempt to convert the Mughal Emperor Akbar into Christianity. They saw this as an opportunity and they sent two of their most experienced priests, Montserrat and Aquaviva, to the court of Emperor Akbar. However, as I have already told you, the Emperor Akbar was not interested in all these things. He had already founded his own religion. However, he only liked discussion. They could not convert him, and all their attempts went in vain. Okay? Such kind of meetings continued till 1592. Okay? However, they could not succeed in converting the Mughal emperor. Then later on, his son Salim, who is also known as Jahangir, he ignored Jesuit priests till 1606. Till 1606, he did not give any importance to the Jesuit priests. However, after 1608, 20 baptisms were carried on in Agra alone. And this, my friends, is how the Christianity began in India. I hope you got my point. This was the first massive conversion to Christianity in India. The 20 baptisms which were carried out in Agra in 1608 under the leadership of Salim or Jahangir, who was the Mughal emperor during that time. Okay folks, that's enough for today. I hope you liked my video. If you liked it, then don't forget to like, share and subscribe this video, this channel. Then these are our social media handles: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. The email ID is also given. Okay, wait for the next part. See you again. Thank you a lot.